One. Hey everybody, it's Kristen Smedley back with Thriving Blind, our video interview series. And if you are listening on the podcast, our new podcast series. And if you haven't heard the podcast yet, that's coming and you should check it out. So we have been talking with those folks that are succeeding without sight, literally thriving blind. And today we have a super fun conversation because simply in the email I got replying to my question of what are a couple of cool things about you want to talk about, I was bursting out laughing, and you'll see why. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be a great conversation. I have with me today someone that I'm actually meeting face to face for the first time, but we have talked so many times and have been at conferences and stuff, but haven't actually sat down and had a really cool conversation yet. So I'm so excited for this. This is Cory MacDonald, and as he says, MacDonald, a proud Scotsman, right?
Right.
Right, very good. So I made sure I got the pronunciation right. And I'm going to let Cory introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his life living with choroideremia. So Cory, where do you want to begin at the beginning for us?
Okay, I can do that. Well, my name is Cory. As you said, I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts, which is the home of basketball and Dr. Seuss and Smith& Wesson, as well as other things. But I was diagnosed with choroideremia in 1968 at the age of 4. And at the time, I was the youngest person ever found with choroideremia.
Wow.
It was found in one of my elder cousins first, who was 22 years older than I. He was on my mom's generational level. But because they didn't know a whole lot back then, but they knew that, choroideremia was X-linked and it ran in families, and they called in everybody in our massive family to be tested. So that's why they found I wasn't symptomatic at 4, but they could see the beginnings of the deterioration already at that point. So I became kind of I guess you could call it a professional lab rat.
Hmm.
I went every year from the age of 4 to the age of 19 for many hours of testing on my eyes at Mass Eye and Ear in Boston. And my test results became the baseline for progression rates through adolescence for choroideremia, which is why to
Wow.
this day, Dr. Jean Bennett jokingly refers to me as the famous one. I love her.
And
She's
she's
just,
quite the famous one and calls you the
oh my
famous
gosh,
one.
yeah, I got nothing on her. I just tell researchers I'm pedigree J subject 42 and they know who I am. It's funny.
Oh, that's
But
great.
and then but from the age of 19 to the age of 29, and this gets to where I was making you laugh. I didn't go see an eye doctor. I went and got my prescription checked for my glasses each year, and the optometrist would go, "Oh, gee, your eyes look funny," and I would be like, "Yeah, I know." But and then during that time I started working in the production field, and I actually was certified by OSHA as a forklift driver and forklift safety instructor. And at the age of 29, I was on a forklift one night, almost ran over a guy, never saw
Oh,
him, came around the corner, missed him by a few inches. He laughed, thinking I did it on purpose, tried to scare him, and yeah. So I went to see an eye doctor then,
oh
and
boy.
and as you know, Kristen, when it comes to legal blindness, there's a couple of different ways they gauge that, either by acuity or visual field.
Right.
And if your visual field drops below 20 degrees, then you are considered legally blind. And at the age of 29, I was down to 7 degrees.
Wow. And
And the
where do you know
doctor,
where you were at 4 and through childhood?
I know that at 19, I was at about 45.
Wow. And
So
then
it
this was at 28, you're saying?
at 29,
At 29, you went
yeah,
down to a 7.
went down to 7. And the doctor said that I had probably been legally blind at least 7 years. And
Wow.
that's when I kind of smiled to myself and said, so I was legally blind when OSHA certified me as a forklift driver and safety instructor.
That's amazing. So would you say that your is that just you adapted so well that you didn't
I
realize, or
think
did you
so.
realize?
I think so. I think the body is an amazing mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you adjust, and you don't even with your boys, they went rather quickly. For someone with choroideremia or another disease that works slowly, it's so slow you don't notice it,
Hmm.
and your body adjusts, and you don't even know you're adjusting.
Yeah.
It's a subconscious thing. It's good in a way,
Sure.
but in a way, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, it can sneak up on you like
Yeah,
a guy coming into a forklift path.
exactly. So yeah, it was kind of a shock to the system that it had gotten that bad that quickly.
But
And
it's interesting that you point that out, though. So I didn't realize that choroideremia was that slow moving, if we want to really say slow moving compared
Yeah,
to other diseases. But also, looking at, and I've said this with the treatment Luxturna for vision loss, the science doesn't look that compelling, like it's that big of a jump into vision. But in
yeah,
real life, whether you go plus or minus just 1 or 2 degrees, so to speak,
yep.
the level of mobility and independence can be huge, just
Oh
as
yeah,
you're saying, not even realizing.
and for me, I mean, I'm just and actually, I can say this publicly now because it's been over a year. I was in the first. I was under a gag order for 1 year, but I was in the first surgery group for the phase 3 gene therapy trials for choroideremia last year.
Wow, wow. So that's a whole interesting episode that we could do too
Yeah,
on,
yeah, we can
did it
talk about
restore
that.
anything for you?
Hmm?
Did it
It
restore
didn't.
anything for
It
you?
didn't restore. Unlike Luxturna, where people with LCA, the deterioration does not start right away.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the kids, the cells lose the function. They're not doing the job, but the cells aren't dying right away.
Uh-huh.
From what I've been able to glean reading it, that happens when they get into like their 20s and 30s. The body, being an efficient mechanism, gets rid of stuff it doesn't use.
Yeah.
So, which is why with the kids with LCA that were treated, there were such remarkable results because it fixed the cells and they work properly.
Mm-hmm.
With choroideremia, when the cell is gone, it's gone. So with a deteriorating disease like this, the gene therapy is designed more to stabilize than anything else. I did experience slight improvements in the quality of the sight that I
Oh,
have.
okay.
So I had like slight improvements in my light perception and my color perception and my contrast perception. My acuity returned to what it had been 3 years ago. So
Wow.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And I think that's important to point out because so many times people, and I mean, we're both in the rare disease research field, and so many people want, the reading the eye chart and all the way down to the bottom line, and they don't want to hear anything until, and then that's the cure. And I'm thinking, boy, if my son Michael that's in college could go to a college campus and not have to spend so much time memorizing routes, and then the whole thing changes at night when there's absolutely zero vision, if that could be a little easier, that would actually be a huge impact on
oh
his
yeah,
life. And he's such a
absolutely.
fast braille reader that print would actually not make sense for him anymore because he's so good at braille. Like I don't really need him reading the eye chart. And actually, I mean, that's a lot of things I talk about too. And as you know, that they changed all of the endpoints in
Mm-hmm.
the vision research for not being that eye chart anymore. It's more the mobility course and low and high levels of light and all. So yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm so happy that you're here to give us that practical, everyday, real world what that means. I mean, going just 3 degrees difference is huge, and or
yeah,
back to where you were 3 years ago is
yep.
huge. So
Because that
let's,
all.
in terms of that, in terms of your everyday, and this is interesting because you grew up differently and your situation is a little different now that you had a little bit of it restored, so you can really you realize what you had lost and then regain, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What then are some, well, let's talk about what you do now first, and then we can talk about what tools you use to do that. I know that, are you still in martial arts, or that was such a big part of your
No,
life?
it was a huge part of my life up until about 18 years ago. And then unfortunately, I had to. You can't, they say you can't serve two masters.
Yeah.
And that was, I started in martial arts when I was 12.
Okay.
You're probably a little too young to remember an old movie, low budget movie from the early 70s called Billy Jack. But
Oh.
that was the movie that got me into martial arts.
Okay.
There was just this. There was this one scene where Billy Jack was standing there, and the bad guy was standing in front of him, and there was a whole bunch of other bad guys surrounding him. The bad guys talking trash to him, and says to him, do you think all your karate tricks are gonna help you against all these boys? And Billy Jack said, well, I guess I don't have much of a choice, do I? And the guy laughed and said, no, you don't. And he goes, well, you know what I'm gonna do then, just for the heck of it. He said, what's that? He says, oh, I'm gonna take this right foot and I'm gonna whap you on that side of your face.
Oh boy.
He says, and you want to know something else? He says, there isn't a thing you're going to be able to do about it. And the bad guy goes, really? And he says, really? And from like a foot and a half away, he brought his leg up around in a crescent and just nailed the guy right on the side of the head. And I went, oh, I got to learn how to do this.
Really? And then you did? Then you learned how to do all that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I attained, I have a 3rd-degree black belt in Taekwondo and a 2nd-degree black belt in combat Hapkido.
Now, were you able to see all the moves that were demonstrated?
Initially, yes. At 12, I still had, pretty good, outside of night blindness,
Mm-hmm.
my sight was pretty well. But then as I got into my teens, the periphery did start shrinking down. When I was about, I want to say 20, 21 years old, somewhere in there, I lost the ability to see my target on a spinning kick.
Wow. So
When
did you give up the spinning kick, or did you
oh
figure
gosh,
something
no,
else
I
out?
still did it because it's like anything else, Kristen. When you do something several thousand times,
Mm-hmm.
maybe hundreds or thousands of times over the years, muscle memory takes over,
Yeah.
and I know where my foot's going to be, and I continued to compete in fighting into my mid-20s, and then
Wow.
I got married. Yeah, one time I was number 3 in the nation and number 1 in New England in fighting. And
Wow.
then I got married and became a father and a stepfather, and kind of got away from it for a few years. And then one of my stepdaughters had an altercation at school, and so I brought them to the studio and realized how much I missed it, and so I got back into it too. And now, so I started. I had earned my first degrees in both styles before I walked away. And then when I went back, legally blind, I was 33 when I went back.
Mm-hmm.
I gained my 2nd and 3rd degree in Taekwondo and my 2nd in Hapkido.
So
So I
that's
did that.
interesting, and I don't want to let that point go by that you just said that it was your stepdaughter that was having a problem at
Yeah.
school, and this is such a this is a thing I talk about, not in terms of martial arts, but you take her into the studio to equip her with this, the self-defense and all of that, so that she's not afraid to confront somebody. And I've often said, and all through my book Thriving Blind, talking with when I interviewed folks that were dealing with blindness and facing it, you have to get the tools you need to
Mm-hmm.
overcome the fear.
Yeah.
And the fact that now you grew up with that and loved it, and then you were able to then teach your stepdaughter those tools to overcome her fear that I'm sure has nothing to do with blindness. She's not
Yeah.
blind, but it's just
Nope.
it really transcends, what we're talking about transcends blindness. It really is every challenge and fear that you have. Get yourself equipped and face that fear. That's excellent.
Absolutely. And and it's not just the physical aspect of it. It's
Hmm.
it's the mental discipline that it gives you and the confidence that it gives you.
Isn't that amazing with the power of the mind and the mindset
Oh,
and what you can take on that you never thought that you could once you have that shift, but having that confidence and overcoming a fear is huge in terms of the mindset.
I mean, and that leads into actually what the next phase of my life is, which is what caused me to walk away from Cory, from fight. Well, when I went back, actually, let me just throw this in there.
Mhm.
I couldn't, well, for one, to find out at the age of 33 you're considered a senior in the world of martial arts, that's really humbling.
Oh man.
And at 45, you become an executive senior. Um,
Oh, that's even, geez.
I'm telling you. So, but that when I started back in and got myself back into shape, I watched my division, which was the senior division, fighting, and I said to myself, I could probably still do pretty darn well.
Mhm.
However, as the sight got worse, the depth perception became an issue, and in Taekwondo sparring, they allow head contact.
Wow.
And the difference, when you're kicking somebody in the head, the difference of an inch is the difference between a tap and really knocking their block off.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thinking was, is it worth it for this stupid little metal to hurt the other guy in what's supposed to be a sport?
Yeah.
So the answer was no. And so I then transitioned over, and I think I believe I sent you one of the pictures where I was doing the splits between two chairs and working the board.
Yes, you
Um,
did. I'll
yeah,
be sure to share those. That's
I,
impressive.
I
Painfully
competed
looking
for,
impressive.
thank you. I competed for several years doing freestyle board breaking, because then, if I messed up, the only person that got hurt was me,
Okay.
and that was fine. And then I did that for several years. And then in 2000, well, actually, it started in 1999. I had joined in 96 an email-based support group for choroideremia. And then I told one of my cousins, Bobby, about it, and he joined as well. And we met all these other CHMers on this support group. And one day in 99, there was an email thread going around about the fact that there wasn't really any research going on for choroideremia. There was no money going into research because, what company is going to invest millions in treating 6,600 people?
Right.
Estimated. And my cousin Bobby, in reply to these emails, made a very simple statement. I don't remember the exact words, but it was along the lines of, well, we're all together now. Why don't we do something for ourselves?
Wow.
And there was a gentleman in upstate New York. I'm not sure if you met him last year in Dallas or not, John Oster. But I thought Bobby's idea was good. John did too. The three of us got on a phone call in the fall of 99. And then in the spring of 2000, we officially formed the Choroideremia Research Foundation. And
Excellent.
I took on the task of running all the day-to-day operations, not knowing anything about nonprofit stuff, but I dove right in.
I hear that.
But I'm very, me personally, and as an organization, we are blessed to have people around us. And it's really weird. I've claimed divine intervention for years with our organization, because it seems like whenever we needed someone to get us to that next level, that person showed up. And
I believe it too. Yep.
pick off a lot of people. The famous, now late, and I miss him dearly, Randy Wheelock was one of those people who
I
walked
loved
into
him.
our lives. And right at the very beginning, I happened to have a friend I've known him since 7th grade, and we're still friends today, which is amazing. I gave him a call. He's an accountant. And I said, okay, we're starting up this foundation, and I'm going to be doing all the day-to-day operations, processing donations, what the heck do I need to do? I don't know what's required of me on this,
Right.
And so we got on a phone call, and he walked me through everything, all the IRS guidelines that I need to do, and the right wording for the receipt letters and everything. And at the end of the conversation, he said, well, do you guys have an accountant yet? And I said, no, as a matter of fact, that's on our to-do list. Find an accountant, find a lawyer, that kind of stuff. And he goes, well, you got one now.
Wow.
And he has been our accountant since we formed, and he has never charged us a penny. He does
How about that? That's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And
Now
like
let me ask you this on that note. So you have choroideremia, you're doing all of this visual computer and paperwork stuff. How are you accessing all of that?
actually, and again, I'm blessed. My field of vision is about, maybe a degree. Like sitting here looking at you on the computer, I can see your face, but I can't see your shoulders.
Okay.
So it's a pretty small little tunnel that I have left.
Okay.
But what I do see with my new glasses, I'm corrected to 20/40.
Wow.
So what I do see, I still see very clearly. So I'm very lucky in that I'm still able to do just about everything on a computer that I need to do. About the only thing that I do differently, technology wise, is I invert the colors when I'm on a website that's mostly white to limit the glare.
I've heard that from, I think Eric does that too.
Yeah, a lot of us do that. I do the
And
same
he's
thing on
posted on social media about those types of things to be able to access
little
things
things.
easier.
On
So
my,
this
on
is
my
so
iPhone,
interesting. Now, when
my
you walk around though, are you using a cane?
oh
Do you
yeah,
need to use a
oh yeah.
cane?
I started using a cane in 1996, and I tell people now I should have been using it long before that, and I have the scars on my shins to prove it.
This is so, I actually didn't realize all of this. So Cory, I'm so excited that we're having this conversation right now because have you seen the social media nightmare happening that people are saying that people aren't really blind and because they're
Oh
able to
yeah,
see their phone, but
yeah.
then they're walking with a cane. And it's such a misconception
Oh,
of the
huge.
multitude of the field of blindness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have the common perception, and I'm sorry, but I am a smartass, and I will take advantage of this when people are being that ignorant, and I will play. I play a little game, and a lot of us do it. We call it messing with the sighties. Okay, because I still have enough sight. I'll be walking. I'll be in a store with my wife, for instance,
Hmm.
and um, I'll see somebody staring at me because they do that. There are
Hmm.
those people that they stare at you.
Oh
And
yeah.
so if they're staring at me, well, I give them something to stare at, and I will make it a point to stop and read a sign. Or or I'll point something out to my wife. Look, dear, this is on sale, and walk over to it. That kind of thing.
Blow
The
their
look on their
minds.
faces is awesome because
Yeah.
but I was in an airport once, and I know I'm in trouble for this one. The karma bus is going to kill me for this one, but I'm sitting in this, at the gate, waiting for my plane. I got there early, like I always do. I always build an extra time just in case.
Yep.
And so I'm sitting there by myself. I have my sunglasses on and my headphones on, listening to my iPod, cane right next to me.
Uh-huh.
And this guy comes in, he sits down across from me and literally leans over, elbows on the knees, staring at me like I'm a sideshow freak.
Seriously? What is
Yeah,
the matter with people?
rude, just rude. So I'm sitting there. So again, my brain, and I mentioned to you in my email too, I did work several years as a clown and an animator. So being a smartass is part of my psyche. I'll give this guy something to stare at. So I just nonchalantly, acting like I hadn't noticed him, reached into my bag and I pulled out my issue of Sports Illustrated, opened it
No.
up, and started reading it upside down. And the conflict on this man's face, you could just read it. Do I tell the blind man he's reading his magazine upside down?
That's so great.
I think a little smoke came out of his ears. It was beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I probably put the poor guy into therapy, but hey, his own fault. That's the way I see it.
Oh.
But I mean, really, but it is true that conception, and that's something. I hold an annual fundraising event up here in Chicopee. As a matter of fact, it's coming up October 12th. It's called Dining in the Dark,
Oh, okay.
and it's a nice buffet dinner and basically a dinner party with a raffle and live music. But the little twist is that everyone is given a complimentary sleep mask to wear while they're eating dinner.
Very good.
And it's we don't force it. We just ask that everybody at least try. We had 112 people there last year, and I believe there were 17 that made it all the way through dinner.
Really
Yeah, and it truly
interesting.
is, pardon the pun, but it is an eye-opening experience because, as I explained to them at the beginning, when I walk into a dark restaurant, that the standard ambiance lit restaurants that all of us people with night blindness cannot stand.
Uh-huh.
I don't see the menu. I don't see my food. I see maybe some shadows if there's some lighting,
Right.
but for the most part, I'm pretty much functionally blind inside those places.
Uh-huh.
So it gives people an idea and an appreciation for what it's like. And many people walk away from that. Matter of fact, I just the last year, the chief science officer from the former Night Star Therapeutics that was just bought by Biogen this year, he came to it last year.
Oh yeah.
It blew him away.
Was it Richard? Is that his name?
Um, you had to ask me, right, Greg?
Greg. Oh no, that's
Yeah,
right. Greg.
yeah, Greg Robinson.
Robinson. I don't know why I always say Richard. He was at one of our CRB1 meetings. Great guy.
Yeah, he's a nice man.
And
Really,
he
really nice.
attended? Did he do the blindfold?
Yeah, yep. He said he told me afterwards he made it about 4 minutes into dinner, and that's as far as he could get.
Yeah. And then people want that. They want the control back, and
Oh yeah,
it's
and of
hard.
course I don't make it easy on him. It's a lot of fun to chase ziti and meatballs around a plate when you can't eat. So
I like
that's
those events though, because it's not like, they're walking around and you're suddenly going, okay, now you're going to make it down the street. And then they go, oh my God, this is so awful. I can never do this. It's at least a controlled enough environment that people
exactly.
can take it in and use the other pieces of their mind to explore this whole sense deprivation and
Yep.
see what comes of that. So it is a really cool, I do like the dining in the dark
It's a
events.
nice concept. Yeah, we
Yeah.
do something similar with when we have our big conferences. Of course, you came to the one in Dallas last year.
Yeah.
Prior, a few days before the conference, myself and one of the members of my patient engagement committee, Jason McKinney, he and I go in a few days early, and we work with the staff. And I don't know if you noticed all like the red and white tape that was
I
everywhere.
noticed all of it.
Yeah,
You had a ton of
to get
stuff going
people,
on.
yeah, to get people from point A to point B, we use the tape. Well, we also do sensitivity training with the staff of the hotel, and part of that training is we teach them sighted guide. At least the basics of it, and the way we
Excellent.
and the we have them pair off, and we put a blindfold on the person who is being led, and so that really
Wow.
drives it home. And we literally, Jason, we go in early, we work out a route, from the, okay, here's our meeting room, and
Hmm.
it's, out around the lobby area and then into the bar or the restaurant and then seat the person. And
This is
then,
fantastic. I had no idea you guys do that. So you're not only hosting a conference of how to live with this disease and the research involved to change the disease, you're changing perceptions of blindness by educating
yeah,
and empowering
absolutely.
the people that are about to host the blind
Yeah.
community. Do you ever go out and do that with hotels and places in the hotel industry without having a conference there, or you just do
You
it when
know,
you have
you
the
know, it's
conference?
funny. There have been 3 different hotel managers that, after the conference, have told us, "I'm going to talk to people. You should be coming to our national conventions and doing
Yeah.
this." And I said, "I'm ready. You got my contact number. Let's do this." And then I've never heard anything from any of them.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting. Well, I'll have to share this out there and tag the hotel service industry, because that would be fantastic for more hotels, because blind people, I mean, it's just funny that I know so many blind independent travelers that love to travel, and they go around, they have speaking careers, or they're working like Tom Lukowski's working for Comcast. He's going in and out of places talking, and a lot of the folks in the book, Thriving Blind, travel a lot to
yeah,
speak about their professions, not even about being blind,
exactly,
just what they
exactly.
do. So there's blind people traveling all the time. It would be a lot more helpful if hotels and airlines and whatnot knew more
Yeah.
about how to just be easily accommodating, because it is not rocket science.
No, I mean, it's very basic. Give me your
Hmm.
left elbow. Let your arm relax. Let me know when steps are coming up or down. You know, it's not that difficult. And really, every person we've ever worked with doing this has fully appreciated the fact that they were given that training, because it
Yeah,
did give them, especially when they had to be blindfolded and had to rely on one of their coworkers, so we don't know whether or not they liked each other anyway,
yeah.
to lead them
Uh-huh.
around. So it makes it really does, it does open up the perception. I think it makes a big impact on them, and it makes them overall much more sensitive to the blind. Like, you don't, because they get it's not, you can sit in a room and have somebody tick down the list of blindness etiquette. you know
Yeah,
don't point, don't
yeah,
point and say it's over there.
yeah.
That doesn't help us, things like that.
Little tip sheet, but
Yeah, don't, yeah,
experiencing it is huge.
yeah. And so by doing that, we do that list, and we
Sure.
go down the list and we talk about it. We talk about, for the housekeeping staff, don't move things around that are in the bathroom. If you
Right.
move something, make sure you put it back exactly where it was. I actually know of, I was doing I did it for a short time, self-defense seminars for the blind.
Okay.
I did a couple of AFB conventions.
Oh,
They
good.
had me come in and do some, and I was supposed to. I actually no, I did one FFB convention. I was supposed to do another one, which was like 2 days after 9/11, so I never got to that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
unfortunately. But when I was doing the AFB convention one year, the hotel, the it got around the hotel pretty quickly too among the convention attendees that somebody had moved stuff around in a person's room who was completely blind,
Mm.
and the poor guy ended up brushing his teeth with preparation H.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah. So and I illustrate, and that's one of the things I bring up when we do the sensitivity trainings. That these things can happen. You
And
know.
that is something that people will remember to not move the things around. So as much as that, at first I'm thinking, oh my God, that's an awful thing. But that is an impactful story
Yeah,
that, just that they think, oh, what's the big deal? It might take a few seconds longer. No, it is a big deal.
it is a
It is a
very
big
big
deal.
deal,
Well, I
especially if
really
it takes a
appreciate this whole
patient.
part of what you've done because I didn't realize it. And now the fact that perception, because it's like a trickle down effect.
Oh yeah,
Just one person at a hotel, the next time they see somebody that's blind or visually impaired, they have a whole new, like you said, sensitivity,
yeah,
empathy, and they get it. The person is successful. They're out there traveling independently. You don't have to go up and have a pity party or anything like that, but you might have to offer an elbow if
yep,
there's construction in the path or something like that. And it just makes it so much easier. I've often said that in terms of disability, the disability isn't the problem, it's the perception of it. It's not the wheelchair that's a
oh yeah,
problem, it's the perception of the wheelchair. It's not the cane, it's the perception. So all of that work that you guys do on the front end at a hotel is
oh,
huge, not just for your members, but for
and
everybody
and
else.
I was happy to see we had our conference in 2016 in Philadelphia.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yay, Philly.
and yeah, and it was at the same hotel where we had our science symposium this year. So 3 years later,
Mm,
we go back to the same hotel for our much smaller thing, the science symposium.
mm-hmm,
But it was really cool to see. Now I saw some employees there who I had seen 3 years ago when I was there, including the sales manager and stuff who said hi.
uh-huh. And did they retain the info?
What got me was that the employees who I didn't recognize
Uh-huh.
had gotten the info too.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
that was awesome. That was really, really
Do you happen
heartening.
to remember what hotel that was in Philly?
Oh, you want me to say it publicly? I can tell you.
Yeah,
I'll give them a shout out. The Embassy Suites at the airport.
the Embassy Suites at the airport. I'm going to make sure I tag them. That's huge that they trickled that information down.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Way to go, Embassy Suites. Way to
yeah,
go, Philly.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Way to go, Philly.
I can't believe well, of course we could sit and talk all day. I want to make sure that you mention I know that you said you use a cane. I'm looking for
Mm-hmm.
the tools that you use that if you were to give adults losing their vision or parents that are raising blind and visually impaired kids, your like 2 or 3 go-to tools that you just cannot get through a day without. What would you
The
say to that?
immediate big things: my cane, sunglasses when I go outside because we're glare sensitive, so that's a big, big thing. Also, lighting and contrast, big things, and not just for choroideremia, but like people with RP who also have anyone with night blindness, any
Hmm.
type of night blindness, lighting and contrast. Someday you'll have to come up here and I'll show you what I did to my kitchen because I do all the cooking.
Oh, wow.
And my kitchen is nothing but lighting and contrast.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
It may not make the cover of home and garden or something like that, but from a functionality standpoint, can't be beat. And if you put a little time in like all these different blinding diseases, everyone experiences things a little bit differently. We're not all
Right.
the same. You know, if you think about what you need to function and you
Hmm.
put a little thought into what you're doing and think about, okay, how can I make this work for me? And not, technology is one thing and the technology is there and it's great. But the technology is not going to help me find the handle on my cabinet in my kitchen.
Okay.
Okay. Because we had golden oak cabinets and my wife bought gold colored handles. And when I put them up, I can't see them. So what did I do? We went to Home Depot. I bought a can of antique black spray paint, took all the handles down, spray painted them, slapped them back up, called it a day. Perfect. I
Very
see the
good.
black against the golden oak color contrast. That's what I need, and so that's what I
Contrast.
do. And then, of course, in addition, and I'm sure Eric probably mentioned these because I think he probably carries around 15,000 of them every day with himself. Bump dots, the little stick-on bump dots.
Oh yeah. I
Those
just
things,
put them on the I did Michael's dorm room with the on the
exactly.
microwave and all different kinds of things.
Yep, yep. Those things are, and actually, our current president, Neil Bench, and he told Eric and I about it. We went, gosh, that's a great idea. We need to do this too. He puts a bump dot on his hotel room number when he travels.
Oh.
So that way he can feel the bump dot and know that that's his room.
Yeah, because you know that, well, that's a whole nother episode we can do on the fact that Braille, there is no
Oh, gosh.
industry specific for where the Braille has to be in a hotel or anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
That is one of, that's, I've never heard that tip before, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually text my Michael as soon as we're done to tell him that, because he does travel on his own for different things, and that's, I never would have thought of that. Just, and
Yeah.
then you just pull it
When
off
you
when you're
get to
done.
your room, when have somebody guide you to your room that first time, and so you're learning your route, and
Hmm.
then when you get to your room, find the little panel with the room number and slap a bump dot on it.
Very good.
And
I
then
love it. That's an excellent tip.
yeah, well, you can thank. I'll tell Neil you thanked him.
The CHM gang always comes through with stuff that it blows my mind that I never would have thought of. But this is why I love talking to adults that are living and thriving and succeeding in what they want to do
Yeah.
with either without sight or limited sight and the whole parameter, because you guys really have figured it out, and especially the guys in the CHM group. You guys are a more positive and helping each. This is what I noticed when I was keynoting at your conference. It's like you really have that we're all in this together
Yeah.
mentality of
That's
helping each
something
other out.
that we have tried hard since actually since even before the CRF even formed, with the
Hmm.
email group we were calling ourselves the CHM family.
Yeah, and it really does feel like a family. And you can tell even when in Facebook posts and all, the way you jab at each other and cheer each other on. And it's just, I mean, I have four brothers, so I just watch it like this brotherhood of, what I really appreciate too is that you guys say, like, you honor the fact that it's an incredibly tough diagnosis and journey. However, you give each other the tools, the cheering, the push, the pull that like a
And the well
family would
timed
do.
and the well timed kick in the butt when it's
Yep.
needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We
I
do
think that
that too.
all of that picture is why there is so much camaraderie and love in that room. When I did that conference, I sat there. I could not believe all of the friendship and support and really a good time. I had such a good time. It was Dallas and 100 million degrees.
It was.
As an Eagles fan through and through, Dallas makes me twitch. Then it's 1 million degrees, and the hotel was under construction. It was everything that sends Kristen Smedley into another universe and will never go back. And I came away like, I just had the greatest time. I was completely dehydrated from the heat,
Oh
and I
yeah,
had the
oh no.
greatest time because everybody was so wonderful and inviting and very, very supportive of each other. With the
Yeah,
funny thing, though, is so many organizations say you can either support or you can push the research forward. You can't do both. And you guys are the epitome of being able to do both.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's always been in my mind, and there are people within the leadership of the CRF that don't agree with me, but to me, we have always been a support organization that raises money,
Yeah.
not an organization that raises money and provides support.
Yeah.
And there's a big distinction between the two.
There sure is. And you can tell in the stuff that you guys do.
I mean, we grew out of a support group. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we're beginning from. And I always tell people, when people are coming to their first conference, and I usually get on the phone with them, and talk to them and stuff. When somebody registers for their first conference, I usually give them a call or I email and set up a call with them, and because they're always nervous. A lot of these people,
Yeah.
they don't know anyone but themselves with choroideremia, and they're going to walk in and meet a couple of hundred of them.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, I say, listen, here's the situation. You're coming to a family reunion. You haven't met the family members yet, but that's where you're going.
It's
It's a,
exactly how I would characterize it.
and really that is the vibe that
Yes.
I mean, that's the reason why I don't think, no, I don't think you were there on opening night, were you? When
I
we
was
have the pizza party?
I was there for the pizza party. That's when I
Okay, yeah,
sat in the
yeah.
back of the room in awe of
Yeah, I
it.
mean, how many conferences start with pizza and open bar? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's a party, but
Yeah.
that when I stood up on the chair and made the toast to my cousin Bobby and to others that we have lost, that has been a tradition that started our first ever conference in 2002 that had a whopping 18 attendees.
Mm.
you know
Wow.
and that first night we were sitting around the bar having a couple of drinks. Like, we seem to do a lot of actually blind people in general seem to hang out bars a lot. Anyway, well, I digress. But I stood up on a chair that night and I toasted my cousin Bobby, because Bobby was, one of myself and he and John founded the organization, and unfortunately Bobby passed away about 2 months after we
Mm.
formed, so he never
Oh,
got to
wow.
see where
Well,
we
maybe
are.
there's your
But
serendipitous hand in a lot of this.
there's a cadre up there, let me tell you,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
including my mother, who joined that group 7 years ago. And let me tell you, nobody says no to Big Mama Mac. Okay, no, 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 no. Oh, nobody does that. Yeah, we have quite the lobbying group up there.
That's terrific.
Yeah,
That's terrific.
but I
So
mean, you think
this is
about.
so interesting that, I asked you to do this interview because you have such a wealth of information about living and thriving with blindness. And this is what I love about the work that we do. Now, someone that runs me as a nonprofit leader has just learned quite a few things from you. And I can't wait to share this with other nonprofit leaders that have nothing to do with blindness. But that's kind of I think that's the through line in the work of people that are succeeding without sight. It's not about sight loss, it's resilience and being creative in how you go about the work that you do. And I so appreciate all the stuff
No,
that you've shared that I had no idea. Just when I think that I know a person through the stuff that we've exchanged back and forth, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like taking notes for all the stuff I've learned as a nonprofit leader. But unfortunately, now we have to wrap up. We're going to just have to do an
well,
episode, a part two.
I'll give you my last word on this. Okay.
Go for it.
The reason why I had to walk away from martial arts, as I said, you can't serve two masters.
Hmm.
Okay, martial arts takes a lot of time, a lot of energy to devote to. And I decided in 2000, I'm going to get into a fight. Okay, I got into a fight with Cory.
Mm.
I don't get into fights unless I plan to win
Oh, there you go.
them.
I like
Okay,
it.
that is what warriors do. They don't fight. They're peaceful, fun-loving people. But if they do fight, it's to the death, and that is where this is going. And I'm going to take down this freaking disease. Whether people, I don't, and I'm very blessed to have fellow warriors with me, like Eric,
Hmm.
and like Randy, who were there and stepped up and joined that fight. And we are going to win it. And anybody who is fighting any disease, if you take that attitude, you're going to win.
Yeah. Winning is definitely what you guys are doing over there. It's really it's so wonderful to have you guys as started as colleagues, and now it's a friendship
Oh,
and the funny thing is it's pushing the rare eye
and
disease
thank you
stuff
for
forward.
donating a signed book for my Dining in the Dark, by the
Oh, you're welcome. When did you say it is? It's October 12th?
way. October 12th.
And where's it? How can people get information on it? Where is it? Where is the
The
website?
website is it's CRFDITD, which stands for Choroideremia Research Foundation Dining in the Dark. It's a lot easier to go with the letters.
Very good.
So it's crfditd.org. And
Okay, and
we're
then
on
get
sale
tickets
till
there.
October.
It's October 12th. And what's the town?
October 5th is when ticket sales stop, because I have to
Okay,
call in the head count on the 6th.
till October 5th. And what town is it in?
Chicopee, Mass. It's at a place called the Castle of Knights, which is it's actually
Ooh,
owned by the Knights of Columbus.
oh,
Really
cool.
great banquet hall that puts out a good spread, and my cousin Michael and his friends provide the live music, and we have a local radio personality. He's our MC. He's a good friend of mine. I met him by accident at a dinner at a restaurant where I'm folding up my cane, and his wife asked what my eye disease was, and we just got to talking, and come to find out he's the DJ for like this really popular afternoon drive show at a local radio station. He's been our MC since I started doing this.
So cool.
Yeah.
Very good. And then you're on Facebook. People can
Yep.
find you there.
Yep. I'm on Facebook, and if anybody with choroideremia, if you search choroideremia, CHM in parentheses, you'll find our support group, which is over 1,200 people from around the world.
Excellent. And we'll put all those links in with the show and on Facebook. And then, like I said, when we go on to YouTube and the podcast. Well, Cory, we really are going to have a part
Yeah.
2 episode, because there's so much other stuff that I want to follow up with, and I want to see your kitchen one day.
My balloon sculpting skills didn't even get touched on.
Come on now, you're going to have your own show. There's so much about Cory, all about Cory, the show.
Yeah, we'll have to bring the video up into my kitchen so you can see me make my garlic fried chicken and my bacon cheeseburger meatloaf and other fun things.
No, I'm not going to watch it. I want to sit in your kitchen. You can make it all, and I'll eat it all, and I'll film it. How about that?
That works. Anytime.
I'm a doer. I want to be in there, doing that. Okay, good. All right, Cory, thanks so much for taking the time here, and
Thank you, Kristen.
thanks
I
for all the
appreciate
work
it.
that you do.
Yeah, thank you.